Hello and welcome to our second video today on how to tune your radio or check your transceiver with an IFR 1200S communication service monitor. If you haven't watched our first video, I would highly suggest and recommend you go back and watch that so that you know what the IFR 1200S is, what it can do, and what makes it such a popular service monitor for most technicians. So let's begin. First thing we want to do is always turn on the IFR 1200S or any service monitor that you're using and let it sit and stabilize. Most service monitors have a lock function on it. If that light on this monitor, on this service monitor, is flashing like that, it's either out of the lock mode, or if it's in lock mode and it's flashing, it's not locking up on frequency like it should be, and it's in need of service or repair. So always check that first. That's why I let mine warm up, if you want to call it that. Let it stay on for about 5 or 10 minutes while I go get Dr. Pepper or coffee or tea or something. Come back and make sure that light is stable, that it's on constant, not flashing. Then you know you're ready to go. Get the radio that you're going to be testing, whether it's a mobile, a repeater, a pager, mobile phone, handheld. Set it up on your workbench to do testing, which means that it's plugged into a power source. Cables are connected between the service monitor and the radio, and that the transmitter is not in transmit mode, that the microphone is disconnected from the radio, and you know what frequency the radio is programmed to, and if PLDCS is used, what those frequency settings are. Now, when powering it up, you always want to make sure when you first turn it on that the volume level is turned all the way down. Squelch is an eighth to a halfway turn. The frequency error is at least 3K to 10K. The mode selector switch is in receive. The modulation, in most cases you'll be working on a FM radio. If you're a 2 meter or 70 centimeter GMRS, 6 meter will generally be FM. Below those frequencies you're probably going to be AM, like 11 meter CB would be AM or single sideband. 2 meter could be single sideband also. That your watt meter is in the 150 watt range, just to be on the safe side, because if you're dealing with a mobile radio, it could be anywhere from 10 watts to 110 watts. You don't want to put it over into modulation and have it pop the meter, have it slapping the meter back and forth. You want to know what frequency the radio's on and have it programmed up for the proper frequency so that when you go to test the transmitter, you know you're on the right frequency. If you don't know the frequency of the radio, you can sometimes find it with a spectrum analyzer. Turn this knob all the way over to spectrum, all the way as far as you can get. Come back to about halfway. You can key the radio up, and you'll see where let's see where we're at here. Well, this one's not going to do us real well. Let's see here. Yeah, you're almost there. It's low on wattage because I've had the radios on playing with them all day long and the batteries are about run out on them. You're better off putting the thing into a programmer and finding out what your frequencies are so that you can test it and put it in on the right frequency. This one happens to be on 147.88 on transmit, which is half duplex frequency because we use it with a repeater. Anyway, we turn the radio on. We've got it in receive mode. We've got our settings set correctly. We can now check. You can see that the transmitter is putting out less than 15 watts, so we can go to the 15 watt mode. And you can see this radio is down to 5 watts. You can take the frequency arrow, since we know it's barely moving, and put it in the 1K position. You can see it's just darn near right on frequency. And it's coming back up on its own. Flip over to the 6K position, 6 kilohertz position, and check modulation. 5. You want plus or minus 5 kc. That's all for mod at the most. A lot of people say 3, plus or minus 3 or 4. If you're using All-Star, they recommend that, I believe it's 3 kc. Now that we know our transmitter is working, what its power output is, let's check the tone. What we do is we press tone. We go over here and change this control knob all the way counterclockwise to tone. We turn the tone generator on. Get enough display there. We put in our tone frequency, 110.9. Always make sure it's a sine wave when dealing with two-way radio. Key the radio up. Uh-oh. Is this one 110.9 or is it 136.5? Ah, 136.5. So, as you can see in the tone mode of 110.9, you see it's off. So if we go in here and we put in tone, go back, 136.5. Let's do this again. Tone, 136.5. Enter. There it is. Perfect circle. You know it's right on frequency. In the 2 kilohertz mode, the tone's a little hot. You really don't want it more than about 1, maybe 1.5. Now if you notice, a good radio, a good mobile radio, will change the tone output from the transmitter when you unkey the radio. That's how they get squelch quieting, so that you on other radios, so you don't hear that sh noise when the repeater goes to unkey. If your mobile radio has a PL on the receiver and the mic is hung up and it's in PL mode, if you key it up, the radio would detect the tone of 136.5 if that's what it's programmed. But when you go to unkey this radio, it will disable the tone on the repeater, which will cause your receiver and your mobile to quiet. You won't hear that repeater drop out. That's how you get around hearing that noise after the repeater drops out. If you look real close, I done roar the battery down on that one. Well, that's what happens when you put them in the charger for 8 hours and then use them for 6 hours and start keying them up. They don't last very long. Alright, let's go to GMRS. RF 467.700. Enter. Tone. And we'll check this one and see what the tone is.
Menu.
I think it's 110.9. So we go tone, 110.9, enter. And there it is. Perfect circle. If you look, you can see that it changes. Alright, let's go to receiver now. We know that the transmitter is working. We're going to go to the receiver, so make sure that if it has a microphone, it's disconnected. Make sure you don't key up your handheld while it's hooked up in generate mode. And being that it's half duplex radio, we're going to put in the right receive frequency of 462.700. Enter. And now I'm going to show you an important feature of this particular service monitor. Like any service monitor, this control is like, just picture a car being way off out in the field or a handheld. You can't hear it. We're going to put it in generate mode. Let's turn this tone down, turn it off. We want a 1000 hertz tone put into the radio. I'm going to go to 6, and we don't want it to be more than about 3. I'll make it 4. There we go. I'll show you why here in a few minutes. Picture the radio being way off. You can't hear anything. It's not even breaking squelch. What this does is simulate basically a mobile radio or handheld out in the field that's coming closer to you. Now, a mobile radio with 50 watts out could be 30 miles out. You got a handheld inside of a house, you probably wouldn't hear it. But as it comes closer to you, the signal starts getting stronger. And before you know it, you got signal. See what I'm saying? Let's turn that tone off. It starts breaking. Right at about 0.2. That's a breaking squelch. So you see how that works. You're applying enough signal to it so you can determine what the sensitivity of that radio is. If you have to turn this up to 0.5 or higher, either you've changed the frequency of the radio and have to retune it, or you got a defunct receiver. Most radios, if you were to unsquelch this radio, should start hearing at a 0.1. Now, let me get it set here where I'm on the right. See? Starting to hear actually before 0.1. Full quieting at almost 0.2. And it breaks squelch at 0.2. Now you can go in this radio like most radios and you can set the squelch setting. I could go up higher on the squelch, which would require that, like if I was in downtown Dallas and it's picking up a lot of noise, I could require this radio to have more signal before it opens up the squelch. That's all well and good if all your mobile units are within 1 block of each other, or your portables, I should say, are within 1 block of each other, and you can get full quieting. There is such a thing as having too much sensitivity. And that causes a problem when you try to use one of these handhelds as a receiver for a repeater, because it'll desense itself, which means that when the transmitter keys up on a repeater, the sensitivity of this radio is so great that the transmitter frequency will desense this repeater, even a lot of times with a duplexer hooked up to it. That's why these radios don't make great repeater radios. Now, if you had PL set on this radio, on receive, you could go to turn the tone on, put it in receive mode, and then you'd be able to check to see if the radio is receiving the proper tone or not. Let's try that and see if we can program it in. I don't think it's going to do it. It's not going to let me do it. I have to hook it up to a regular radio and check it and see. Anyway, that's how you check your receiver on your radio. Now, if I had this apart, had it laying like a mobile radio where the lid was off of it, I could go from the speaker terminals on the speaker into the port here where it says Mod Synad, and I could check the receiver quality, the signal quality of the receiver in Synad mode over here. You can check modulation level in transmit mode. You can also check modulation level in generate mode. Apply a signal to it, turn the tone on, and see at what point it saturates the receiver. See how it shut the receiver off? Now, if we open up the squelch, you see what it's doing? It's overdriving the receiver. A lot of times when you're talking to people, if you're talking too loud or the mod's set improperly, you get clipping, and that's what that is. See? That's when you hear people say your mic is too hot, you need to turn it down. The other thing you can do, turn the tone off, the 1000 hertz tone off, and remember me telling you about the lock mode? You go over here, it's all the way down. You can check and see. Let's put this back up in 3K mode. You can see if that receiver is center tuned or not by its sensitivity. See? So let's open the squelch on the radio. Put a little bit more signal in it. See, it does about the same. It's actually, receiver appears that it works better. A little higher, above 0.5. That's the problem with some of these cheap radios. The receiver doesn't always match what the transmitter is. Being that much off, I wouldn't sweat it. Now you turn your tone on, and you can see it does better on the lower end than it does on the higher end. See? Take it out of generate mode, and we're back to normal mode. We take it and put it back in lock mode so it stays on frequency, and then we check the transmitter frequency again. Now this particular radio, we can do a reverse on the frequency. I think it's this way. Yeah. And you can see just by pushing one button, I've got instant reverse. It'll transmit on 462-700, which is like using talk around. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope this helps you in figuring out how to tune your radio. We look at that again real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Want to check the DTMF buttons. Let's turn it up where we can hear it. Put it on 2 and see what it... About right. You can check each one of your DTMF tones. 2, 3, 4. You can see the tone right there. Okay. There's really no difference between it and a mobile radio. Except on a mobile radio, a lot of times you can pull the cover and you can tune the radio. I hope this helps in showing you how to use the IFR 1200 for tuning your radio. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section. Or if you have any comments, leave it in the comment section. I'd appreciate it if you'd also hit the like button and subscribe. I'd like to take this time to thank the Canton Area Emergency Radio Services for providing the IFR that we use today for this video. And hope you all will come back and watch more videos that I plan on making in the future. Our next video should be on a mobile radio that I'm going to change the frequency from 37 megahertz to 52 megahertz for 6 meter, which means retuning the whole radio. I plan on doing that as our next video so you can get an idea of how to tune a radio properly. Again, thank you for watching. I'm William Howell, President of the Canton Area Emergency Radio Services, and I thank you for coming. Have a good day.